Welcome back. Today we're talking about an amp that I've had for quite some time. I think these are a really good deal. I think a lot of people know about them at this point. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily a secret, but it's the Boss Katana.
It means Japanese sword.
It's Boss's multi-effects modeling amp. I've got the 100 watt 112. They make some different configurations of this amp. There's a head, there's a 50 watt combo. This is the 100 watt 112. They all have the same sounds in them. Really good sounds. This is the Mark II. So it's got some of the more advanced features, but it doesn't have the push mode and some of the things that come with the Generation 3. To be honest, we're probably not going to get into all those complicated features either. I think in the future, I'll probably make a video getting deeper into the fine details of this amp. There's a lot that you can do in the tone editor from Boss. But to be honest, when I use this amp, it's kind of plug and play. Half the time, I don't even mess with the EQ. I kind of just hit one of the preset sounds. That sounds good enough, and I'll be at something like band practice or whatnot, and it's good enough for me. So the Katana has some different amp sounds to choose from. One thing I like over something like a Line 6, something with more amp sounds to choose from, is you don't have an endless menu of 45 amp models to choose from. This has clean, crunch, lead, and brown, as well as one called acoustic. Each of those sounds really good for what it is. You've got a variation mode, so you can have a little bit different version of each of those sounds. There's effects built in as well. So as I'm giving you different sounds of the amp, I'm trying to give you examples with and without some of the built-in effects. I can add overdrive or distortion to a clean sound or to one of the distorted sounds and get some variety that way. There's reverb, delay, modulation, some other weirder effects. This actually has just about every pedal Boss has ever made is accessible in these amps. Some of the effects you need to hook up to Boss's software to be able to access, but honestly, what's accessible just in the stock form, you can get a lot of mileage out of. So the clean sound on this is really good. To me, it sounds similar to a Roland jazz chorus, which in my mind is one of the best clean amps of all time. The crunch sound on this is really good too. You can turn the drive way down and get kind of a edge of breakup type thing. This amp takes pedals really well. So I'm going to give you an example where I've got the crunch channel on kind of lower drive sound and then hitting the front of the amp with a tumnus, a pedal actually on my pedal board. It interacts with those really well. You can also use the built-in boosts and overdrives to goose a drive sound that's built into the amp. There's a lot of variety and a lot of ways you can mess with stuff here. surround sound on this amp sounds really cool too. It's their attempt at Eddie's Brown sound. It's their attempt at a Marshall. And I think for a solid state amp, it sounds really good. I've played using this in a band setting for band practice a number of times, and to me, it just sounds remarkably good. These amp sounds are responsive to different guitars. That's one thing I notice sometimes with some modeling amps is you can play different guitars into them, but all the guitars might feel kind of the same. You might not be able to distinguish as easily the differences in the guitars. That's not the case here. This amp responds like a good tube amp would. Obviously, you're going to be able to tell the difference in the sound if you're tuned into things like that. I really think this amp can hold up with a tube amp, can keep up with a tube amp. Tonally, I just think this thing's good. You can dial it in to an insane degree. I really think if you use an amp, there's a place in your lineup for this amp, for a Boss Katana. It's a great backup, and it's a great option to take to a band practice or a gig when you don't want to lug a heavy tube amp. I do that with it all the time when I don't want to have to take my tube amp up and downstairs into my drummer's basement, and I'd rather just take the Katana that weighs half as much. I don't feel like I'm losing out on tone because it sounds really good. So these are foot switchable, making them even more giggable in my opinion. I've got the 6-button foot switch. I don't use it often because honestly, I'm usually just using this in a one sound kind of setting. Set it and I've got my sound for the night. But having the 6-button foot switch with these, which is compatible with every one of them above the 50. So if I'm not mistaken, even on the new ones, the 50 watt, you can only use the 2-button foot switch. But on the bigger ones, you can use this 6-button foot switch. You can have presets. You can turn effects on and off. I really think it's a great option to gig with, to practice with. Even if you're just rehearsing by yourself, these sound great. I like having one of these around when I can't get super loud because this has variable wattage. I can turn it down to half a watt. It still sounds really good, but I'm not blowing anyone's ears out. This one goes up to 100 watts. It's got a half watt, a 50 watt, and a 100 watt setting. I think I've used this with a drummer on the 50 watt setting and it kept up pretty well. Obviously, the 100 watt is going to be pretty darn adequate for gigging or practicing. If you haven't played through one of these, I suggest doing it. See what you think. Obviously, my big thing with doing guitar videos is I can give you my opinion all day long. The biggest thing is like, come up with your own opinion with this stuff. I really think the Boss Katana is an insane deal. They sound really good. They're kind of bulletproof. I mean, like tube amps, you got to worry about upkeep and stuff. This is solid state. It's more of, the only upkeep I can really think of is updating the firmware, but I don't know if I've updated the firmware on this one since I've had it. They're great to gig with. They're great to practice with. It's, hey, say you got to leave an amp somewhere. This could be the amp you leave somewhere. I think just about anyone could have a real good use for one of these. Have you played the Boss Katana? What do you think? You may have seen my last video where I reviewed the Marshall DSL-40. Here's the link for that if you haven't seen that yet. I'm actually thinking about doing a video where I A-B these two, where I kind of talk about them next to each other. I feel like there's a lot of overlap in what these amps offer, but they're obviously very different too. So if you're interested in seeing that video, please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe anyway. It really helps me grow the channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Thank you.